So what's it like to work with Steve Jobs? Well, Michael Dewey did that at Apple. He's now an executive with the technology giant Cisco Systems. And Michael Dewey joins us tonight from San Jose, California. So you've literally been in the room with Steve Jobs. What was that like?
Steve was a very engaging person, and he was certainly someone that you could tell was very focused on anything that he did. He would always ask you how could you do this better? How could we make this, smaller, quieter, better? You have 10 questions about how you could make this better, and why didn't you think of this idea or whatever. So you always felt compelled to work hard to deliver something that was really extraordinary rather than ordinary. And I think that's what Steve drove Apple to, is always to go beyond average and find something that was extraordinary.
Now, in your case, one of the projects was what turned into the Macintosh 2. Over the years, as you saw the iPod, the iPad, the iPhone, as you saw those projects come online, what in those did you see that made you think of Steve Jobs?
Well, I actually was the hardware engineer on the iPod, so I was the first iPod. That was a major transition for Apple. That's kind of where the Apple computer became the Apple. And also, when you think about it, it kind of changed the whole revenue model for Apple in the long run, because now they not just sold you a piece of hardware and then walked away. You got a continuing revenue stream from all the music sales and eventually movie sales and book sales that occur for iPads. And that kind of what made Apple the big company it is today, that extra revenue coming, that continuing relationship with your company rather than just buying a piece of hardware and walking away.
So here's the big question, and from your perspective, now that he is stepping down as CEO, can Apple continue as an engine of innovation the way it has over the last few years?
Well, I think in the short run he's going to become the chairman of the board, so he's not really leaving Apple. He's just taking a less stressful role. As you remember, he's also and runs a part of Disney as well. He's an executive at Pixar, so he has lots of work to do. So I think he's just more the day-to-day. He's finally giving up on that idea and just saying, okay, I'm going to be chairman of the board. I'm just going to guide the long-term strategy. But I think in the long run, yes, that's the big question, is what happens after 5 or 10 years from now, and where will Apple be at that time. And
what do you think? What's your prediction?
I think it will be hard to find a replacement, because I think he's one of a kind. I don't think there's going to be, it's sort of, I think of today as like somebody like Mark Zuckerberg. He's a unique character, and he came about the same point in his life and led this big company, and Steve's kind of the same type of person. How many of those come along? Not very many. So I think this will be a loss, because companies that get big like that, they become very conservative. They'll make the next version of every product. The iPad 2, 3, 4, or 5 will come along, but where will be the next big change? What's the new innovation? That's the hard part for any company to come up with.
And speaking of Zuckerberg, you were on Facebook today checking up on some of your former colleagues at Apple. What's their reaction been?
Sadness. I think that some people were actually telling me that they were sort of crying a little bit in terms of what it's meant to their career, because some of them have been at Apple even longer than I was. They're still there, and this is a big transition as far as they're concerned, because they know that this is kind of a one-way thing. But it's what life is all about. We all have come to some conclusion in our lives.
Michael Dewey, thank you very much.
And thank you. I enjoyed the interview.